Okay, good afternoon. I'm Sherman. I'm the candidate for Vice President. I am Exco Rep for CSC this year, Community Service Club, and I'm running for the position of Vice President. Okay, before I commence my presentation, there have been some people who say that me and Ita were in a struggle, so we thought that, we will make the actions follow the rumors, but actually we are not. We were just playing around. Okay, but anyway, sorry, that was just some commercial break. Okay, first, about myself. I'm from the Faculty of Law, Year 4, and I'm from, these are my union experiences. I served in the 33rd Exco and the 34th Exco. 33rd Exco, I was the Executive Director. 34th Exco, I am the Deputy Vice President. In my year 1, I joined NUSSU BISCOM as a Project Director. Also in that same academic year, I was in the Reg Day 2011 committee where I served under Ziming. He was the Vice Project Director. Hi Ziming. Thanks for being here today. Okay, and it was the year where we went out to Promontory. So Reg holds a special significance for me, and later I'll explain why. And I joined union camps from 2010 to 2013, so I've been in 4 union camps already. And I met Chris, that time he was the Vice President, and he later became the President of the 32nd NUSSU Exco. He was crashing my OG, I didn't know that, until the camp ended and went home and found out. Okay, so what are my com club experiences? I wouldn't say that I have very good com club experiences. I wouldn't say I have very extensive com club experiences, but I was a regular in my freshman year, REG, so it holds a very special significance to me, right? To me, REG is something that bonds people, it's something that creates memories for all the freshmen especially. And staying in school every day, 9 a.m. to 12 a.m. every day is no joke. And in that kind of hardship, you bond and you create memories. This is what REG stands for me. And this is what I hope to see everyone go through. I also helped out law camp. I attended law camp as a freshman, and I also went back as a counsellor. So there was this year I was actually a counsellor for 4 camps. Yeah. Okay, I was also in CSC Day 8 organizing committee. Sadly, that's my only OC experience in CSC, but I've been a volunteer in other events such as GOR, then Project Can I went for twice. Yeah. So. And then hall experience, I stayed in Raffles Hall for my first year. So one of my main activity was that of ROC. It means Raffles Hall Orientation Camp. That's 2011. 2012, I did not stay in Raffles Hall, but because of the friendship that I made over there, and people asked me to why not help out. Then I was like, are you sure I'm not staying in hall? And they said, yeah. And to me, that was when I really know that how hall residents think. It's really an entire kampong. In fact, this was what the 2 Raffles Hall presidents told me, kampong. They said, it is an entire community you live and sleep with, okay, not sleep with each other, but you live, okay, Raffles Hall actually has double rooms, so you live and sleep with each other, but on different beds. And you interact with each other, you see each other most of the time, you see each other more than your parents. And I think actually in most union volunteers, we also see each other more than our parents. And to me, it's something part of university life, it's something I cannot forget, and I hope that everyone can have the same good experiences that I went through. So, me being the union camper, I went for 4 different union camps. The most recent one is this year, the one at the bottom right-hand corner. Okay, as you can see, I collected 3 out of 4 colors. I don't have 1 color, which is green. So hopefully this year, me and my friends will go again, and we try to get into the greenhouse. Okay, so why did I join the union? Most people, I'm not too sure, but some people say serve the students. I think that's an exposed reason. Okay, exposed means a reason on hindsight. But why I really joined the union in the first place is because I wanted to know more people. You see, I'm from the Faculty of Law, and we are in Bukit Timah campus. And it's quite far away. And if you just mix around with people in your faculty, you only know like 1,000 plus people. And to me, I think the world is bigger than 1,000 plus people. Sorry, William, but yeah. So that's why I came back to Cambridge to help out. It was not easy in my first year. I had to juggle between hall studies and NUSSU BISCOM. But I'm very glad I knew a lot of good people, friends that I can count on. For example, Ziming, who's still here. I mean, he was here when I was a freshman, and he's still here. I admire him. Reg PD, Reg VPD, and Reg programmer. Okay, next, give back to society. Okay, this sounds a bit cliche, but I really sincerely believe in this. To me, I am a beneficiary of the good education system in Singapore. And me being, by virtue of being NUS, I'm a recipient of $19,000 worth of government grant every year. So if this society has seen fit to subsidize my tertiary education, it is only right that I contribute back to the society in some way. And to me, it's about, it's about giving back to society through certain means. In JC, I didn't join like council, I didn't join like CCAs. I was a total recluse. I tell myself, I'll just mark for 2 years, I get my A's, I will go off to university. I did exactly that. And NS, I was thinking to myself, what did I get out of my JC? I realized that when I talk to people, it's not what I got in JC. My results doesn't matter, plenty of people get that. It's the experiences, the friendships, the memories that you form, which I did not get much in JC. Which is why during NS, I told myself, I'm going to do a 180-degree change, I'm going to change it in university. And that's why here I am today. And lastly, drive the change I want to see. Sometimes when we are dissatisfied with stuff, we can have two options. One is to feedback and do nothing after that. The other thing is to feedback and then do something about that feedback if it's not done. And to me, I think driving the change I want to see means that I not only am concerned about the school, but I'm so concerned that I want to be part of the change. And this is why I joined the union. To me, the union is the best student representative to feedback such ideas and problems and even potential solutions, like Ida has mentioned, potential crowdsourcing, back to the university. And like it or not, some people may say we are not representative, but when it comes in front of the union administration, they still listen to us. And since they listen to us, and we get funding automatically from student subscription fees, the onus is on us to make sure that those feedback get heard, get processed, and things are done about them. And we are the ones driving the change. So what are my guiding themes? Y, O, okay, not G, U. So it's Y-O-U. It actually stands for 颜色, Ohana, and Ubuntu. These are my guiding themes. Okay, they are all foreign languages or rather non-English, so I will explain them one by one. 颜色, colors. I always tell people about this paper analogy. I tell all my freshies and my friends also. University life is like a piece of paper. How colorful you want it to be at the end of university life depends on whether you want to color it, what colors you want to color it, and how much you want to color it. And if I were to look back at this point in time, I would say with very little regrets that I think my piece of university life paper is probably pretty colorful in some ways, not so colorful in other ways. And I hope that everyone's paper will be colorful, because university is really the last phase of your life before you go out to work, and you work really almost all the way until your retirement. So let's enjoy this university life and make it colorful and vibrant. Ohana. I'm sorry I have to use this quote from Lilo and Stitch, not a very good movie, but I find this quote very meaningful. Ohana means family. Family means nobody gets left behind or forgotten. To me, union is family. As I said just now, I have spent more time meeting union volunteers and friends more than my family. To the point that sometimes I regret not spending more time with my family. But to me, union is like a second family. These are people that I can count on. I mean, that day I just went out with one of my friends, my Discom chair, Marcus. I went out with him. I went out with him for dinner, for lunch at Maxwell Market, and he gladly sent me to school after that without any. I mean, he's just being a very good friend. I have disagreements with him, of course, but usually it ends with an expletive and then some coffee or tea. So, to me, I want to create this family among the union volunteers. Make no mistake, families have their disputes. Families have disagreements. But at the end of the day, blood runs thicker than water. And in union, the blood is the spirit of volunteerism. And this is what I hope to achieve in my term of this term. Ubuntu is a Bantu language. There are 3 different meanings that I went to search on the internet. So I think I'll write 3 of them down. The collective gives individual his or her humanity. Individual has stake in the collective. Basically, one for all for one. The collective is nothing without the individual, and the individual is nothing without the collective. Similarly, in the union, we may be one big organization, but what makes the difference are the people. We can have the best structure in place, but without the people to carry it out, the structure will crumble. The structure will remain empty. And this is what I hope to draw into every union volunteer. Okay, so after finishing with my guiding themes, I'll go to the areas of focus I hope to achieve in this term if elected. First, volunteer management, manpower planning, And the last one, cutting red tape, as Ida has mentioned. Volunteer management. There are 4 sub-areas that I want to look on: sharing of best practices, regular interaction sessions, open door policy, and horizontal communication. Best practices. The reason why I run through CSC is because I really agree with the model of volunteer management. Why? Every CSC event that I go and volunteer with, I receive mini appreciation. What are mini appreciations? Recent example. Okay, sorry, okay, basically, I went for this project camp, and these are like little plushies that they give out to volunteers. I mean, it was a nice sponsorship thing, but usually they give out very nice, intricate stuff made by their organizing com. And they really treat each volunteer with the greatest value. They actually, in every organizing com, they set aside a volunteer management cell. And these people actually spend their time, the entire organizing com spend their time making these volunteer appreciation gifts. To me, I think the union has much to learn from this. I spoke to previous presidents and vice presidents. They say that if we can do half of what we do for CSC volunteer appreciation, they said it will go a long way, and I agree with them. Next, regular informal interactions. If you look at CSC, right, their club room is always very busy. They go to lunch together, dinner together, they exercise together, they do pretty much everything together. They care so much. They create so many WhatsApp groups for different purposes that they can max out their WhatsApp group limit. I'm amazed at that. But that is how close they are. And I hope that we as the union can forge a volunteer pool that is so close and very bonded. And the last thing, I think Ita talked about information asymmetry. Our own volunteers, union or even the club volunteers, do not know exactly the full picture or the events and initiatives that each club or the union does. This is an information asymmetry. Other than Ita's monthly unity session, I think we can learn from CSC. When they have regular mailers going out or telling the volunteers what events they are going to organize and how they can participate in them. And I think these are technical stuff which we can easily do, and it's something that we should do. Okay, regular interaction sessions, formal sessions. So NUSSU has 9 committees. Joint committee working group, similar to Clovis' idea of a CNET, is about the committees coming together to brainstorm for ideas and basically understand each other more before using those relationships and interactions to have the breeding ground for further initiatives. However, slightly different is that I will not only involve the president, the chairpersons, but also the vice chairpersons and the entire MC if possible, but they're driven by a joint group of chairpersons. Subject matter gatherings. This is a big word for essentially basically saying that if you have a congregation of log directors or financial directors and stuff like that, I think as I was a subcom member once in law camp, I find difficulty if I didn't have the union knowledge to borrow logistical resources from the union. I do not know who to approach. I do not know how to approach. For me, I think that should change. If you are it doesn't matter you're a subcom member of NG Club, you're a subcom member of CSC, you should know my subcom members of my union, the EXCO and the committees. And if we cannot achieve that kind of status, we have probably failed in some way to build a communication channel. And this is important. Why? It reduces lag time. If you look at the current communication model, any request that we have will percolate upwards to the highest level, or to the highest level we have connections. It will travel horizontally, and it will percolate downwards. What does that create? Lag time, especially when events are having a tight deadline. They face this kind of lag time can sometimes be can affect the event adversely. Next, it creates a distortion of message. Because sometimes people may not understand each other. It's like, the game Chinese telephone. So, you pass a message down and then the message gets distorted. Actually, the same thing happens. So, it's better to have a horizontal communication rather than a circuitous route. So, lastly is informal sessions. I'm a great believer in that, sitting in a meeting, with all the chairpersons or any subject matter gatherings is good. You get to trash out ideas. But I think what's more important are those informal meetings, like go for dinner, tea, talk to each other on Facebook, WhatsApp, call, SMS. I think those are informal stuff that, it's about going back to knowing more people. You have to know more people first, know who to approach. And then when the need arises, you could tap on those connections. I'm not advocating the idea of you have connections for the sake of exploiting them. I think if you join the union, the reason that is to know more people personally, make more friends. But when you make more friends, you know who to approach, and it makes your life easier when you want to organize anything and get things done. Open door policy. What does this mean? All volunteers are free to approach me or any compos for that matter for any issues. It may be something operational, it may be something concerning the union, maybe something concerning your individual club, your own, even studies, or you just need a listening ear. Come and approach us. We don't mind being a counselor. Yeah, and actually we have a bit of time now. Yeah, we can listen to stuff. I mean, all it takes is a listening ear. And I'm not too sure, but some person told me, I mean, a tragedy happened some time ago, that the reason why that tragedy happened was because not enough listening ear was afforded. And the union, sometimes when we are too KPI driven, we tend to forget the human side of the stuff. And sometimes we need to slow down, listen to each other, listen to what problems you have. Maybe we do not solve them, but at least understand each other. Next, a flattened hierarchy. I served in NS, probably most of the guys here also serve in NS. The hierarchy, when you have a very big hierarchy, it's very difficult to get things done. Things are bureaucratic, a lot of red tape. I hope to flatten it. It doesn't matter just because, if elected as a compos, you cannot approach me. Any subcom member can approach us, because we are after all volunteers. And there's no reason why my title should distance me from you. But the caveat, we can only advise and listen, not interfere. Because if elected as vice president, if let's say a subcom member from, let's say, BISCOM, not saying that BISCOM has any problems, BISCOM comes and tell me about certain problem, I can only advise and listen, advise him or her to say, okay, maybe you should see your chairperson, maybe get both of them together, have beer, have tea, listen to each other and try to mediate the problems. But it doesn't mean I go in and say, tell the chairperson, look, you are doing it wrong, I want you to do it the other way. I think that's very heavy-handed and top-down. We can only advise and listen, but not interfere. That's my caveat. Horizontal communication, I think I've said just now. The current model is mainly upper level of the entities. Requests take a long and circuitous route. So what's the new model? Increased horizontal communications. Okay. Repeated dissemination of information. Okay, this is, I think, something that I realized only after talking to the different com clubs. We often at, for example, start of FOCC, we send out email. Let's have a logistics directors gathering. Let's have a financial briefing for all the finance personnel. Yes, we only get once. If someone doesn't go in, the thing is not repeated, it's not drilled in. People tend to forget. And when they need to utilize those information, they do not have it offhand. So what we do is we'll keep telling them, if you have staff to request from NUSSU, this is who you should approach. If you need finance help, who to approach. And we'll keep doing it on a repeated basis, frequent basis. This is to ensure that this kind of information are stuck inside their heads. It's just like I tell students, in fact, during union camp this year, I did a presentation, a short one about the union. I tell them that if you forget anything from today's briefing, just need to remember one email address, feedback@nussu.org.sg. Because this is the most important, this is the most convenient feedback channel. And I hope to get the same kind of things for volunteers as well. And volunteers were not only from EXCO, but also from com clubs and communities. And to me, the litmus test is, example, a deputy logistics director from computing club is able to know the deputy logistics director of my subcom, let's say PRU. I'm not sure if PRU has a logistics director, but yeah, you get the point. So that's my litmus test. And we can contact each other directly is all the more better. But of course, keeping the people up there in the loop. Yeah. Okay, manpower planning. 3 key areas. Competing opportunities, cross-entity manpower flow, and all your entry points. Competing opportunities. I was in the commencement dinner when I sat together with a group of people whose age are mostly 3 times mine or more. They all served in the union before, and this was what they told me. Then I asked them, why do you join the union? Their answer was pretty much similar. Because there was nothing else to do at that point in time. But if you ask ourselves currently, is the situation the same? No. People in Singapore now have career opportunities like internships, overseas experiences like SEP, NOC, or even summer programs. More attractive alternatives. Do I have to serve in the union? Why not I do a startup? Why not I go and work outside NUSSU? These are the kind of alternatives the union is competing against. And if we want to retain our volunteers, we need to present with them attractive opposition, or we need to tell them that these are not dichotomous with us, this is not mutually exclusive with us. We can find a common shared point. Cross-entity manpower flow. This is what we hope to achieve in terms of manpower flow between the three different parts of the union. I quote the example of Dennis, president of CAC. He was from PRU, committees to conclub. It's a nice way because our volunteer pool, they can cross over from committees to conclubs. They bring with them diverse experiences. If I quote Wilson, the current General Secretary, he was also the Arts Club President before he became the Gen Sec. If you look at Yu Xian, he was from DE Club President, and he came over to become the NUSSU EXCO VP before becoming a T. These are the kind of manpower flow that we wish to offer to volunteers. Tell them that, look, you don't have to restrict yourself. Once you enter committees, go straight to EXCO and then you'll be stuck there. No, go back to serve in your con club. If you're in con club, you're eligible to serve on our side also. So this is the kind of proposition we hope to give to our volunteers. All your entry points. I think Ita has already mentioned this. Most of our volunteers, we get it from the FOP period or start of academic year. Once you miss that threshold, it's very difficult. Not impossible, but very difficult to enter. And we are leaving out good talent. What we do, we hope to have an all-year-round entry point, not only on a major outreach program, but also continuously recruiting people, look out for talent, telling them, look, you can join. It does not matter that the outreach has closed, you can always join us now. And this is the kind of proposition I hope to give the general students. Cutting red tape, something very close to my heart. There are three key areas about red tape. Red tape is fundamentally about rules. And in my course of study, we are taught to interpret rules, bend them, and ignore them if necessary, or question their rationale, and question whether the rationale for that rule is any longer necessary. Finances. These are the two areas that we look at. Usage of reserves. In fact, this was already started by the former Law Club President Kenny. He has already mentioned that reserves. It's very difficult for us. Okay, I'll put it this way. NUS, it's very easy for NUS to take money from us, but it's super difficult for us to get money from them. So, I'm not too sure if any of the people here know, we actually have a 10% cap usage on our reserves, our liquid reserves, subject to a case-by-case discretionary approval. This, to me, is a sign of the paternalism that the university imposes on us. If you look at the very initial parliamentary intention of shifting the money from external bank account to the university, is that the university becomes a banker. But I quote some of the council reps in the 34th Council who said this: has the university become our banker or our father and mother? When we want to use money, they question and question and question and only give you reluctantly. To me, reserves are money that has been accumulated, and if we see fit to use it, why not? After all, we are accountable to our students. If we misuse it, the students will make us account for it, and the university should not step in with its paternalistic attitude. Cash advancement. I thank Desmond for this insight. I think Kenny has brought up one point last year. He said one of his FOPCom member actually paid $5,000 or $7,000 upfront. It is kind of weird that, we as students, when we organize events, we face this kind of hurdle. People have to be really rich and then pay upfront, and then we wait a few weeks to get the reimbursement. This should not be the case. As Ita has mentioned, what we'll look is we'll relook at how the different tiers of cash advancement can be put. For example, let's say up to $1,000, the approval process can be much simpler. But let's say up to from 1,000 plus onwards to 5,000, we can cash advance up to 5,000, but it's going to get increasingly more difficult. So these are what we'll do. We'll work closely with OFS, push them, and utilize our bargaining power as an entire union to push them on this red tape and cut them. Next is logistics. Two main points. Centralized logistics system. I think most people I think Ita has called it the Ask NUSSU thing. It's basically a centralized logistics system where we will implement a logistics system. All you just need to do is to go to this centralized thing, say, you need logistics, you have this thing, you have it, and whatsoever. And to us, This is how the EXCO and the committees can help support the conclaves. Student vibrancy is fundamentally supported by events and initiatives, and the EXCO and the committees should go all the way in supporting such initiatives. And if we can do it in a centralized system, why not cut down red tape? And as Ita has mentioned, a union-wide backup pool, nice suggestion from Engine Club, and we intend to take up on it this year. Now lastly, resources. The first part about a centralized registration system, this is something that I have seen from my personal experience. I was a key counselor, OGL, basically, for CSC camp. So I went down to UHC, University Health Center. Basically, all the guys from NS will do their health check. And I went down there, they tell us, they hand us a piece of clipboard, okay, go and collect names and put them on mailer list. Fine. I went down there. When I went down there, I see 10 other counselors from 3 different camps. CAC camp, Union camp. Everyone there attacking the poor 2 or 3 guys, getting the same email address and causing them a bit of irritation. If you look at how, those of us who have planned camps before will know that we get our freshie list mainly from Open Day or Facebook Blast and going to UHC camp for NS people and get their names. And we are duplicating resources in that way. Sometimes it gets a bit territorial, it gets a bit heated. What we propose to do this term is that we will create a link from the NUS main website. All students need to do is to click on that link and sign up for the mailer. They will be sent 2 to 3 mailers throughout the few months telling them to register for their freshman activity or orientation activities. And all the faculty clubs and the non-faculty clubs, camps, social camps, or even whole week will be included inside. So there's no need for us to go down and collect all these signatures and these email addresses and contacts. This will be done by the freshmen and it will be part of their acceptance package. So what about the late acceptance, which is actually a constant bugbear because we miss those people out. To them, if you are late acceptance, one of the first few things they will do is to check the NUS website. So if there's the link on the NUS website, naturally we will capture this group of people. So we also account for the late acceptance. Okay, centralized booking system is about, let's say if I'm from science, I want to use an engine LT. I need to go all the way to engineering and bargain with them and hopefully get an LT if possible. What we hope is a centralized booking system where you can book through NUSSU. We will cut down the red tape and facilitate your booking. And lastly is equal treatment in booking. Basically, if you are a science club, you want to go at engine LT, engineering should treat you like engine club in terms of priority for booking, except when the home com club has a more urgent booking. That's the only caveat. Okay, so I'll go through my guiding themes again. It's about coloring someone's lives, creating a family spirit, and lastly, collective and the individual. So some people may say that the union is slow, it's bureaucratic, it's like an oil tanker. What I prefer to think of it is an aircraft carrier. Sure, we are big. Sure, we are made out of many parts. But if we bother to navigate and work with each other properly, we can create a formidable force. Yeah, and for that I end my presentation and the Q&A. Yeah, thank you.
We'll start off with half an hour of Q&A. Can anyone propose to start open the Q&A?
I Zhang from PA propose to open the Q&A.
Second, first question.
Joseph SD. Regarding red tape, a lot of the red tape actually originates from the relevant NUS officers, and those are red tape seems to be more insurmountable than our own red tape. Because we could decide on how to cut them, but those guys, their bureaucracy level is much deeper and much harder to untangle. So how would you deal with them, even with our own best efforts at cutting red tape? Because they will throw out all kinds of crazy excuses just to justify their bureaucracy.
Red tape. So I will address two. I think your question, if I interpret you correctly, is that there are 2 types of red tape: the union red tape, which we are committed to cutting,
Yes.
and the university administrative red tape, which we can only persuade them to cut.
Yes.
We will persuade them to cut, but ultimately whether they can remove it or not, it is up to them. That I agree. What we can do, and I really sincerely believe, is that we can put out our best case in front of them to persuade them why that red tape should not remain anymore. In the way I see it, every red tape exists, every rule exists for a reason. A rule is a reaction to something bad that happened in the past. We start out, usually people start out with trusting. We trust each other to do certain things. And when that rule suddenly becomes, suddenly something happens, something bad happens. To put it very bluntly, people like to cover their own rears. They don't want to take liability, they want to shift liability. That's why such red tape, such rules come up to apportion liability and protect the people, the stakeholders. So for example, a certain club in some year, there was an injury because of Fright Night. And as a result, Fright Night cannot be done anymore, or not at least officially. Now the reason is, should we question why the ban on Fright Night? These are the kind of rationale we should question, and we should put forth a very persuasive case as a union with our collective bargaining power that, look, what happened an accident a few years ago, some years ago, maybe it's because of certain unique characteristics. Maybe with the characteristics of the environment. If you look at the current environment, this will not happen again. So why a blanket ban? As I think this is a kind of red tape that we could go around persuading the university administration, put up a very good case on why it should be reduced. And we can only do it when we do it together as one. If you know that this is the university way of dealing with us actually, they like to divide and conquer. It's something that has been used since 1975. They like to approach different con clubs, Different con clubs, they do not know the full picture, they might, okay, agree, okay, can. Then later, when the union go up to the administration, hey, we want to do something. Then they're like, no. But your con club said no, what? The deanery said no. Then we're like, huh? So, together, right, we may be like, I use the cliche Chinese analogy again. One chopstick is easy to snap. But when you have a bundle of chopsticks, it's not that easy to snap. So we only need a collective bargaining power, put forth a persuasive case, tell them why the rationale for that red tape or rule is no longer applicable, and we will tell them, let's review it and remove it. And we'll work together with university administration to achieve that result. I hope that answered the question.
Yes.
Thank you.
Still another 25 minutes.
With regards to your centralized booking system and centralized registration system, right? Will the NUSSU be actually administrating it, or will it be NUS? I know more on your plan.
Okay, thank you, Wei Xiang, for that question. Actually, it's a very relevant question, and I thank him for that question because he's the ASEC, so he has a very good insight. At the very start, I think the union should have stake in this, because we are making our own lives easier. And the union will be the one who drive this, to implement this at the very start. However, if subsequent batches feel that NUS is better off at administrating such a system, then they want to hand it to NUS, it's their own prerogative. But as far as I can see, it's a union initiative to make our own lives easier, to make our con clubs, our communities, our exco work together more efficiently and help student life, student vibrancy. So we should be the ones fronting it, and we should be the one taking ownership of it. So hopefully I answered your question. Thank you.
From USC. You'll be familiar with the Constitution, alright?
I don't remember every exact word, but I'm familiar with the rough structure of it. Yep.
Thank you. Maybe two things are going to change in the Constitution yourself.
Wow, that's a very, very tough question. But actually I've thought of it. And I actually have two things here.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, those late nights that I go away from my books. I mean, my books are boring. The Constitution is less boring. There are two things that we should change. I think the Constitution was rewritten in 2012 August. August 2012 was when it's passed. I was the one who rewrote substantially. Yu Qian and then Hon Jen-Sek, Wei Liang also put in their inputs, and it was very valuable input. I thank the 33rd EXCO for that. There are two changes that I want to make. First is the amendment procedure. If you look at the amendment procedure, right, I think Article Part 2, I think, is that virtually any constituent club has a virtual veto over any amendment of the constitution. Because as long as any constitution club can get more than half of their combined reps, which is EXCO and council reps, to vote against a constitutional amendment, that amendment will not be passed. And I think that's virtually onerous, pretty onerous and oppressive to the rest of the 30 con clubs. So what I would propose, if possible, if they want to block it, that provision was put in to prevent minority oppression. But in this case, it's a rule by minority instead. So what I hope to do, is to push forth the idea that maybe not one club, but at least half the constituent clubs must agree to the change, or 1/3. The number is a technical thing, so it's up to council and CQ to discuss, and even general student population. But the virtual veto is something that I hope to change. The second change which I hope to do is that of the adjudication committee. The adjudication committee was an idea that when Council Trip 2012, we went to Hong Kong, and I was very enamored with their adjudication committee. It's an independent committee that settles dispute. So I wrote it in, but it's not perfect, and I agree it's not perfect, because the whole stuff on it is the conclave presidents or any other union members, and by virtue of the constitution, the president of the union and the council chairperson will be on it. Sometimes they might not be the neutral party and stuff like that, as in they have certain interests that have a conflict of interest. So they might not be suitable to be on the adjudication committee. And the AC might be seen as something that's non-neutral. So one of my hope is that there will be a truly neutral AC. In fact, I actually wrote up, I actually redid all the provisions already. It's just waiting to be proposed in council. But I think it will take a long time, and to be very honest, right, I think most students are not concerned about what our constitutional provisions are. So if it's a waste of council time to debate on those stuff, right, then I think it should be left to be done and proposed at a more appropriate period. Right now, I think the council needs to tackle our very tangible student issues, supporting initiatives, increasing engagement with our student population, our own volunteers. And these are, I think, more important issues to be tackled. But if the good time arises, right, and it doesn't distract from our time, I think I will float out that proposal, and I hope to share with you before I float it out for your input. Yeah, thank you.
Sure, business. Okay. You actually mentioned that one of the main thrusts of your cutting red tape is to reduce the red tape regarding the utilization of reserves, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. I understand that where you're coming from in that the university should not be father or mother taking your money for us. However, do you feel that there's a real need for us to relax this restriction? Is there a case where faculty clubs repeatedly go over budget? And in that case, shouldn't we be looking at the fiscal responsibility of the club rather than releasing more money to them?
Okay, I agree. That's a very good question. Thank you, Sean, for it. I think there's a fundamental tension when utilizing of reserves. First is that how much is too much, and when it starts to get paternalistic, and when it's about ensuring a minimum amount of responsibility. To me, I think a 10% cap, right, crosses the line of paternalism. It's telling us that, look, we don't trust you to be accountable to your students and not use more than 10% without a hint of misuse. I think what the university should do is to allow us to use our reserves, okay? But when it feels that the usage of reserves, they should still approve it, the final approving authority. But if they feel that there's something so onerous about using the reserves and it's irresponsible, they can veto it. But don't set a 10% cap, 10% limit. Because sometimes we might want to renovate certain stuff, like let's say a lounge or whatsoever. And a 10% thing might really be too, the cap might be too, how to say, inflexible. And I'm not talking about capital reserves only, but also liquid reserves. For example, let's say 1 year we decide to go out and do an event, a big, large-scale event that tap into our reserves. I mean, from the working relationship that I had with the different officers, right, that I've interacted so far, they probably have no problem trusting us when it's a one-off basis. But I think it's still the fundamental starting point. Do they really trust us? Or do they impose the cap because they don't trust us, subject to certain exceptions where they feel that, okay, they can give us the green light to go ahead. So I think it's a starting point, although the ending results are the same. Yeah.
Sorry, just clarification. So you propose removing, we don't want to set an actual cap?
Yes, correct. Which one? Okay.
Just keep it there.
Okay.
As in just keep it there at the objective.
Sorry.
Because I cannot ask questions from the Q&A slide. It's
Okay.
empty.
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, that's it.
Okay.
Done.
Oh, you just want to know the objectives. Okay. Thank you.
You're free from thoughts, I suppose when you suggest about the cash advancement, I suppose that you are quite know about the current SOP, right?
I wouldn't be very technical, but yeah.
Or, yeah. Then can you suggest the good and bad for the current one, then good and bad for the cash advancement, and are we able to avoid the bad for cash advancement in the future if we run this policy?
Okay, for the cash advancement, right, I may not be very entirely familiar with all the technical details, but what I know generally is that advancement, if you want to apply for cash advancement, you have to provide a good reason and do it at a certain time ahead of it. But what happens is that sometimes this kind of purchases, right, can arise without that requisite period of time. So as a result, people are forced to come out money advance. They are supposed to come out their own cash upfront. And it is sometimes, no matter how much you can plan, right, your events might have contingencies that not allow you to have that kind of approval period to satisfy the time limit. So what we hope to do is that, you know, for let's say smaller amounts like up to 1,000, right, we want to, let's say there's no need for approval, we can hold like around $1,000 petty cash or probably slightly more, so that to do this kind of liquid expenses. And maybe for more than 1,000 or 2,000, then you have to have a certain approval period, but maybe it's staggered on a sliding scale. So like maybe 2,000 you have to like put maybe 3 days, and then 3,000 will be like 5 days, and so on and so forth, up to a limit of maybe $5,000. Yep. So I hope I've answered your question. Yeah.
I don't know whether it would be appropriate to revisit the investment of reserves that issue, but are there any update on the investment issue that the previous councils had talked about?
I think the issue has been more or less conclusively settled. The investment are in accordance with the NUS Investment Office guidelines. So as long as we trust the university to utilize those funds properly. Yeah. So I think it's been conclusively settled.
So in that case, there will be like an annual report available to you all and like every year or?
Okay, maybe I need to rephrase my answer to the previous question. Our reserves are invested in so far to the extent that the NUS reserves, right, are invested. And our reserves are therefore invested in that sense. But if we want to tap on our own reserves, we will still do the necessary withdrawal stuff. But to us, it's more or less treated as transparent. They are not reserves. It's just that NUS, their pool of money, right, they have a certain part that will park in reserves for higher returns. So that is the extent that our money is being invested in those investments. But other than that, if you want to withdraw, it's still as per the normal financial procedures. Yeah. Thank you.
I'd like to know how would you differentiate yourself from the other VP candidates? What makes you, what gives you an edge over them?
That's a very good question. To be honest, I have to say that Willie is a very bright, ambitious, okay, maybe ambitious is not such a good word, it's very bad normative meanings. Okay, but he's very bright. I spoke with him. He's a SAF officer, Navy. I agree with his ideals, and I feel that he's someone who's driven and willing to succeed, and he looks for personal growth. I agree with all of those objectives, and I think that he is a talent to the union. What differentiates me from him is perhaps the experiences that I had in the union so far. I serve in 2 different excos, I serve in committees, so naturally, with regards to the operation of the union, I'll probably say I have more experience compared to maybe him, because he served in his conclave. But I must admit that his conclave experiences are very extensive. And I must say his welfare initiatives are very good. I have some freshies who are in the previous MC of BZ Club. I spoke to them, like Alex and Fong Wah. They said, Willie is a very good person. I agree with them. But I think, so maybe what differentiates me from him is that my union experiences are probably more extensive, and that's because by virtue of time. But I believe with the advent of time, he probably will accumulate more experience should he choose to stay in the union. Ita, I hope that answers your question. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, considering for business, can you comment on what are some of the things that you did in the Informal Expo as the DBP? Tell us more about it.
Okay, thank you. I think this is a very relevant question. First thing I did, I think the most, looking at my objectives at the start of the year when I step up. Okay, when I step up, my list of objectives and what I achieved at the end are substantially different. Because what turned out to be a side endeavor, which was basically cleaning up the election standing orders, turned into some major monster called the election regulations that got proposed, drafted, turned rejected, and then split into two and passed twice subsequently. If you were to ask me what was probably my greatest achievement, I probably rank that as number one, because it finally brought some kind of uniformity to the elections regime in NUSSU. The other stuff which I did are probably the more miscellaneous policy stuff, like, you know, when there's some new fire that starts, I'm like a fireman, you know, go and extinguish, and when people need to, like, yeah, basically Ita and Ren Kai will be like, hey, you lawyer, right? Okay, you go and draft the letter. So it's that kind of miscellaneous stuff, the very behind the scenes kind. The third thing which I must say with a heavy tinge of regret is that of the Union Heritage Project. I would have to say the regret is not only because I think I did not fulfill to the best of my abilities to the union, but also because it's something that is a personal favour to Ren Kai. Because Ren Kai wanted the Union Heritage Project, and we actually had he scaled down the expectations of it, but I was still unable to deliver to the fullest expectation, to my best, and I have to say that is probably the biggest regret I have to 34. I tried to do it, but I think the distraction, especially for the election regulations, that totally threw me off track of it. And by the time I finished it, like in June or July, right, there wasn't much energy left to pursue that. And I think that's my biggest regret. And if you ask me this year, will I continue on with the Heritage Project? I would. It's because not only because I see it important, but it's a personal responsibility. And I intend to finish it to the best of my abilities this term, if elected. Thank you.
Short business. I'm looking at your campaign promises, and point R, you actually discussed constitutional changes regarding removing the cap on the number of voting mentioned.
Yep.
Could you really explain a little bit about your rationale behind this?
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, this was a point also raised by Kenny, the former law club president. Because under NUS Regulation 9, your number of voting MC members, right, is determined in the ratio of 1 to 100 to your membership pool. But as long as you have more than 1,500 members, you are allowed 20 voting members. And whereas, you know, the rest is on the sliding scale up to a minimum of 5 voting members. I think this year law club had an issue about their number, because of the size of the faculty, they can't have more than 10 voting members. But they wanted a structure where they want to involve a lot more MC members in the voting process. But by virtue of the NUS regulation, it's an impediment on them. So they question the rationale for it. Why is there such a cap? Is the cap to control the voting strength on the council? And we couldn't give a very definite answer, but I say it's probably along those lines. And which at that point in time, Kenny suggested, so why not impose a direct cap on the council voting strength based on the directly 1 to 500, right? 1 to 500 ratio from your membership, your club membership, instead of doing this indirect mechanism where you also indirectly affect the number of MC members you can have, the voting strength. So what we intend to do this year is to go ahead and staff a paper to OSA and also to the Board of Trustees to tell them to amend this NUS Regulation 9, because it impedes the way that our clubs function. If the club sees fit to have 25 voting MC members in their entire structure, why not? Why should they be capped just because of some NUS regulation? It's, to me, another unnecessary intrusion of the university administration to our student, how we organize ourselves. Yeah, so this is where I hope I have explained the rationale for the provision R. Yeah. Thank you.
Now we see that your NUS is coming up. What do you think the
a very interesting question. I actually thought about this question when I was in Canada, because I was going to meet Yale, supposedly, but I couldn't make it because I missed the train to New Haven from New York. Okay, if you ask me what is our relationship to Yale, right, if they have a student government, obviously I hope that they'll be our constituent club, so another constituent club. But if they so decide to set up an independent student government, do we treat them like NUSSU, SMUSA, or do we treat them like something more special? So when I look at the kind of relationship, I see an analogy in international relations. Like in the example of Canada, Quebec is a province that likes to go independent. They view themselves as separate from Canada because they're Francophone and the rest of Canada is Anglophone. What the relationship I envision us with having Yale and NUS is that, yes, they are equals, we are equals if they have a separate student government, but we share a special relationship. Because of the fact that our name is with them, they are on our campus, and it's like our activities and operations are probably intertwined to some way. And you know, if we do not do our job well, they probably also will get affected in some way, same vice versa. I think there's a Chinese phrase for it, it's called 唇亡齿寒. That means when the lips die, the teeth feels whole. It's the kind of, you know, very intertwined relationship. Sorry, I'm a very Chinese person, yeah, so I like Chinese language because it's concise, so that's why I think that's the kind of relationship that I envision together with Yale and NUS. But ultimately, the kind of relationship that we should have is not decided by me, it's not decided by the president, it's not decided by council chairperson. It's decided by the council on behalf of the entire NUS student population. Yeah. Hopefully that answers your question.
Follow-up question. So how do you think our relationship with NTU, SU, SMU, SA, and the SDT group development ought to be?
Okay, that's a very interesting question. Our relationship with NTU, SU. Okay, they are fellow student governments, and I'm not too sure, okay, for the benefit of council members here, we actually have a joint uni gathering. Okay, so we bring together all the student governments of all the 6 public universities together. And you know, we have sharing session, networking, you know, create relationships and, you know, opportunities. And we also have go to education ministerial dialogue. How we interact them, I think the most we can do with them is to network. And, you know, understand each other, share best practices, and understand each other's problems, network, and basically know that you are not alone. There are people who are equally passionate about the cause that you serve. You want to serve the students in other universities. And that sometimes, whatever we do at NUS, right, although we may complain about it, but yeah, after all, not too bad. If you read NTU confessions, right, you'll see the huge amount of complaints about their shuttle buses. And their student union is getting flagged for it because their student union arranges the shuttle bus routes. And it's really worse. I tried the NTU shuttle bus, it's really way worse. And NUS ISB is actually heaven compared to them. So, to me, I really don't see any opportunities where we can collaborate them to do joint projects. I think those require a tremendous amount of effort, time, and resources that we are really stretched to the limit currently, and we are unable to have that buffer. I mean, your opportunities fund, probably you can fund for it, and can find more students to do it. But ultimately, I think that's not my aim. I think my aim is to maintain good relationships, share best practices, and guide them. In fact, I will go as far as to say this. People in other student governments actually look up to us. Why? NTU Council, NTU SU Council, this is how they function. They sit in a meeting room with all the presidents from all the clubs, and they sit down there with the exco, and then that's their council meeting. Yeah, so that council is like our CQ, whereas our council is much more active, participative, and have a lot more debates. I see the value in the NUS model compared to the NTU model, even though we have same rules. So I think as much as we have much room for improvement, let's not beat ourselves over it. We are actually probably at the forefront compared to other Singapore universities. But that said, obviously, we have room for improvement, and we should strive to improve ourselves all the time. Yeah, thank you. Hopefully that answers your question. Yeah.
We are left with around 3 minutes, so can take in one more question unless someone wants to close it.
Hi, Sarah from P. PA propose to close the Q&A.
Thank you so much for this presentation.
Alright, very good afternoon one and all. My name is Willie and I'm the Vice Presidential candidate this year. Let me start with a little self-introduction. That's a very handsome picture. Yes. So, most of you may not know me. This is my first year in the NUSSU committee. This is my first year in NUSSU Exco. And in my first year, I was actually a Director of Welfare and Pizza Club. And I'm actually a year 2 business plus USB student. A little interesting fact about myself, I was actually a double degree student, business and econs. But I decided that actually I cannot handle the workload and I want to actually focus on non-academic life of NUS. That's why I dropped it this year, so I can focus on NUSSU. And still retaining business plus USB. During national service, I actually was serving in Navy. I'm a regular officer on board the Minesweeper counter-measure vessel. It's a very strategic asset actually. If you want to know more about Navy stuff, you can talk to me. Yeah. I'm currently staying in Shermon College. It's a great departure from what I've been doing for the past 11, 12 years. My past CCA from primary school all the way into JC, the only constant was Chinese orchestra. I've always been playing the all the way. Yeah. So in NUS, I wanted to go beyond my comfort zone. I wanted to try something new, I want to do something different and challenge myself. So in Shermon College, I was very active in student life activities. I was the captain of IFG volleyball team, which just completed last week. I am the captain again of Captain's Ball Interest Group, which we completed in the inaugural ICG last year, Intercollegiate Games. And lastly, my proudest achievement last year was I co-founded this USB on Wheels. It's a cycling interest group, and this is because I'm a very avid cyclist. If you know me, I don't take a shuttle bus in school. I cycle all around everywhere, even if I'm in this kind of suit. Yeah, it's just a personal fact about myself. So why choose me to be the Vice President of the Student Union? You can see my track record of leadership. I've actually more from before Navy, OCS and all this, but it doesn't matter. What matters is you know who I am, you know what I'm capable of. I believe that my track record of leadership shows for itself, and all these life lessons, these leadership lessons I gained from all these years, I believe that all these are transferable skills. What is important is that you do not learn your skills just for that domain. All of these can be transposed. What you need to do firstly is to abstract it out. Internalize what are these lessons. You have to understand it. Only then, once these 2 steps are completed, you can actually apply it and adapt it to the current situation at hand. And I believe that is what I've actually molded from all my years of leadership journey. Secondly, why choose me? Because I have a high adversity quotient level. I believe that I have the ability to adapt. If you know me, if you know my leadership journey in BZ, I was the Director of Welfare, but honestly speaking, this was never in my top choice. I never chosen it, I never given it any thoughts before I was elected. Anybody can corroborate my story. I actually chose like sports, I chose academia, I chose corporate relations, I chose relations and all these things, but I never thought of welfare. But the seniors, my peers, they all thought that I was more suitable for welfare back then, and they realized that, okay, I'll be the best person for the role. So they just gave me the role of welfare, which I believe was a blessing in disguise. It's through that I realized that, hey, I had learned a lot of things. I managed a committee of 10 people, and with that I managed to organize a lot of events, my own initiatives. I did a lot of things, and I'm actually most proud of it, of my NUS life. The VP needs to be personable, approachable, and understanding. Why is that so? VP, when he walks the ground, people need to trust him, at least ASAP. On the first impression, it counts. If the person is very dull, if a person is actually looks like very unfriendly, no one's going to bother to talk to him. Even though I go up to you, you may not want to open your heart to me. You may not confide in me. You may not trust in me. And if that link is not formed, the VP who's walking on the ground, the meet the people session, all this will go to waste. Why? No one trusts you, no one tells you your issues. You do not know anything. You just go there to drink coffee, drink tea. I think that's why important for a VP. Needs to inspire confidence and trust. This is all part of leadership. Needs to inspire confidence and trust while engaging the people, not just the people he meets on the ground, but the people he leads and the people who he works around with. I believe that VP, together with the president, supposed to be a shining beacon of example. The leadership virtue, a paragon of virtue of leadership that everyone can learn towards. Everyone can respect. I heard many stories of the current NUSSU EXCO leadership. I believe, not to pour him, but I realized that some things that he done, people actually respected him through the little things that he done and the major things he has done. Both are equally important. So if you guys need to know more about how the NUSSU EXCO 34 dynamics was, go ahead. My fellow council rep, my EXCO rep, go and talk to the seniors. You should learn a lot through their eyes. What do I stand for as a person and as a leader? Foremost on my list, integrity. Integrity is the most important value. Dwight Eisenhower, the 33rd US President of the United States of America, his quote was, "The most supreme quality of leadership is unquestionable integrity." Now that resounded with me, that resonated with me. Without integrity, if your leader has no integrity, do you think you can trust him? You may believe that he can do his job, but do you believe that his inner motivations for doing the job, is it for the team, for the larger organization, or is it purely for himself? Integrity, once integrity is called into question, there's a lot of hassle. You have to spend mental capacity second-guessing it. Second-guessing what he's doing, whether it's right or wrong, whether you can trust him or not. And I believe that to make things more efficient, actually, the leader must not have this kind of character, and not people actually have this question bogging them down and draining their bandwidth, their capacity, and diverting their attention from focusing on the areas of issue at hand that they should actually work towards. Therefore, integrity, everything is important. By extension, values and principles. Work ethics and professionalism. If you know me personally, I'm actually quite easygoing, friendly. Some say joker, I throw jokes around like free like that. But I believe that this is my off the work attitude. And when the time calls for it, when it's time for me to rise to the occasion, I'll code switch. I'll be as professional as I am now. And if I have to mentor a student like I did for BZ Club Elections, I mentor so many people. And people actually said I was very strict, I was very fierce. Hey, because that's because they're new, they don't know me. But actually I don't mean that. I am able to code switch. Another key quality I believe in, efficiency and effectiveness. 3 words, don't waste time. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want you to waste my time. We both do our jobs as fast as we can, ASAP, and we get to finish our work faster, we get to go home earlier. And maybe you'll have some time to have tea, right? Tea is where we actually forge bonds. Lastly, I stand for operational excellence as well. In my last year as Director of Welfare, I realized that operations are important. This is what the students, this is what everybody, is the first point of contact with everybody. If you stand up in a queue waiting for a welfare pack, it's all hot and sweaty, and what's worse, the operations is bad. You actually have to wait for half an hour because the queue is so slow. The guys processing so slowly. Who here went for Color Run? Color Run organization was so bad. I stood out there for 4 hours, 5 hours. Come on, don't waste my time, man. Right? So this is the first way of getting people to trust us. Operational excellence. Why am I running for Vice President of NUSSU? Firstly, I believe that I'm capable of contributing on a larger scale. 1 year in the faculty level, I've focused more on a micro perspective, but now I believe I've managed to do that and learn a lot of things from there, but now I want to do it in a macro perspective. I want to learn more about how the entire student union functions, how the entire school functions. And through this, I actually can have my own personal self-development. Thirdly, I just want to address student apathy. Let's face it, the common sentiment on the ground is that students do not care about NUSSU. You ask the student, what do you think is NUSSU about? Do you think they're effective? Do you think they're efficient? Do you think they're even here for the students? I'm not sure what you know, but we probably know we always converge on the same answer, and I wish to address that. This is not what it's supposed to be. NUSSU is supposed to be the voice of unions, the voice of students, the representation of the students. We should be the one they turn to when they have any issues or grievances they want to air. We should be there for them all the time. More than that, they must know that we are there. That is the fundamental thing that is missing for the last many different councils. Where do I see NUSSU going? First, let us investigate. Let's look at the mission. The mission of NUSSU is to promote and safeguard the interests of full-time NUS undergraduates through active communications and engagement. Communication and engagement. That would be my trust of my VP role. So, as I said before, NUSSU has its own raison d'etre. I believe that we should do our primary job well before we start going further. We should be the mouthpiece, we should be the one representing them. We should be there for students. Now, if you don't have this fundamental layer, it's like building upon a house of cards. We're building on shaky foundations. Each time we can go very high, we look very pretty and everything is good. But when the wind blows, when a little drizzle starts coming down, the whole house of cards will actually fall. Take a look at this picture. To the right, Petronas Tower. Look at its height, 452 meters compared to 553, difference of 100 meters. But look at the foundation difference, 120 versus 15. 15. Look at it then, it's so small. Okay, so although this foundation is small, but its structure is so high. You may see that, on the surface, it's so pretty. It's the tallest tower in the region. This CN Tower in Toronto actually is really very pretty. But look at it. Look at the meat of it. What does the building really stand for? The building, is it there for aesthetics purpose? Is it there for office space? Is it there to fulfill a function? Well, I'm sure they both have their own names. But to me, I want the organization to actually dig deep, form the foundation strong, so that our building can be big, majestic, have meat. We really do what we are supposed to do. The role of a vice president is many. Firstly, is to complement the president. No matter who wins, Clovis, Ita, it doesn't matter. The role of a vice president is to complement the president. Whatever shortfalls, inadequacies that the president has, the vice president must be there to complement. The vice president must be there to cover up, to make better, such that the both of them will be working together, the P and VP team, they make a formidable team. So for that to do, you must understand I must understand the president and find out how to actually work with him. Offhand, either Clovis or Ita, but now since Ita has won, both of them, they're both very visionary people, as seen from the plans. 1 hour presentation, everything is laid out. Both are very visionary. Both have very huge plans, ideal plans. You can say idealistic stuff. But to achieve that, someone needs to be there to pull him down to the ground. Someone needs to pull them back to the ground. To find out how to operationalize the ideas that they have. And I believe that's the role of the vice president. So moving on, the vice president also must, in my term, I will wish to work in terms of synergizing and overseeing the 9 NUSSU committees, which I will give a small introduction later. Also, I'd like to reach out to student interest groups, societies, and CCAs. From the standpoint of the Con Club last year, I felt that all these little student organizations have not been sufficiently reached. They do not actually see the support that NUSSU can provide. And that can be achieved in certain ways I will share later. The College Student Life Community, CSLC, that is about the U-Town, and College Council-wide project, which is something like the Love NUS project that the Vice President last year did. So moving on about NUSSU committees, as I said, there are 9, and just nice and 9 looks like an app screen from iPhone. So a very brief introduction of all of them, so that fellow council reps that just joined NUSSU this year, you know what the NUSSU committees are here for, what we are capable of doing, how we can actually assist you if you need any help with the Con Club events. So the first 3, there are NUSSU PRU, Public Relations Unit. They're the relations wing of the union under the ComSec. They develop relations between union and students. The REACH is the largest student-run editorial team in NUS. This is our mouthpiece on the magazine. NUSSU SF is the student fund. It disperses the BAVG Bursaries Award book grant. And newly formed in 2012, they partner with DBS and their new aim is also to promote financial literacy. NUSSU BizCom is the marketing wing, it's the face of the NUSSU in the corporate world. And it's the primary fundraiser wing that we have for all our different projects. And there was some talk of it in the plans of the 2 presidents that they want to try to concentrate all our marketing resources. So NUSSU BizCom could be one of them. NUSSU Commit, IT, provides IT services, conducts workshops. IRC, International Relations Committee, is the face of union to international students. They are something like the international union for them. The last 3, VPC, Videography and Photography Committee, they now said. NVAC, NUSSU Volunteer Action Committee, is the volunteering wing. And NUSSU Welfare, is under the welfare cell, they focus solely on tangible welfare. So, after speaking to a couple of NUSSU committee chairpersons, firstly is to close my gap of knowledge that as a first-year NUSSU person, I don't know a lot of things, so I need to talk to more people. I realized that, hey, these guys actually probably know as much as I do, which is almost nothing. And they don't, it's something like the right arm doesn't know what the left leg is doing. I talked to some committees, they were trying to do something about welfare-related stuff. The buses, they wanted to reach out to students to talk about buses, to form a solution and propose to the school administration. I was like, wait a minute, this one I know. This is entirely under welfare cell. There's an assistant secretary dealing just with the bus issue alone. Why would you want to replicate the efforts? So this is where I believe the vice president will come in. So even within NUSSU, the different committees are working within their own silos. They're working within their own bubbles. And that's the role of the VP. We need to burst this bubble for them. We are supposed to be the synergizer. We're supposed to be the marshaller of resources, the bubble burster. What is synergy? VP as the synergizer. Synergy is actually when the mathematical laws of addition do not add up. When 1 plus 1 gives you 3. As Aristotle once said, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Together, we are more than what we add up to individually. Imagine this, NUSSU PRU, Public Relations Unit. They're working on their own individually in isolation. They don't know what's going on, they just do their own things. What can they do? They cannot collaborate with anybody. So they're just operating individually. But now, if you were to throw in other committees, con clubs, welfare, anybody, you realize that, hey, a web of interaction can form. Everyone can help each other in their own different ways. And actually, this complex web of network, we can actually leverage. Look at the number of PNCs, the permutation combinations that each one now has. The PRU now has 4 other people to rely on. This is for a group of 5. But imagine we have 9. Imagine we have all the different con clubs. Bring it further. Now we have all the societies, CCAs, and IGs. If VPC requires something to be done, PRU can help. If IRC requires something they need help with, welfare can help. Anybody can help each other. It doesn't have to be committee helping con club. Why not con club can help committees as well? We also will need help. At the moment, there's an asymmetric information gap. We don't know what you're capable of helping us. So, and you don't know what you're capable of helping you. So we believe that this is a two-way relationship. And if you have been smart enough, you've been sharp enough to observe, there's a star in the middle. It symbolizes what we can actually be if we symbolizes what it can actually be if we were to harness this network of resources. How? There's two ways, formally and informally. Formally, we can form a committees network, including all the chairpersons of the 9 committees, and me, because I have an inherent interest in this. We can have regular meetings, union TAT sessions, even informal sessions. I can go down to meet the different chairpersons to understand what their concerns are. This helps 2 ways. Firstly, by building relationships, they will trust me. They will be able to confide in me what their issues are. Then they'll tell me about the events, and I can see how I can augment them by using what I know of other committees, other chairpersons, and I can try and help each other. Moving on, it's the same kind of network ideology. We transpose it into UTown, the CSLC. Aim to closely discuss any issues, alternatives, and initiatives for the whole UTown. Currently, UTown has probably 0 to no united representation. We have the different CSC, we have the USC, but at the moment, there's no united representation. So, I know this is one of the key thrusts of the different presidents of the different committees as well. So this can be easily put into place. And it comprises the P and VP of student life of all of these colleges, maybe including UNUS as well. And who can sit on this board? The PVP, GenSec of NUSSU EXCO. It doesn't, we can arbitrarily decide later. But what is the crux of this is that this network must be formed. And also, it's a personal advantage because I live in Cinnamon. I can easier to connect with the people around there. Like I know some people personally already, so it's easier to conduct relations. Bringing next step forward, outreach to student organizations. Informing our resources, we have the council funding, what Ita saying, the opportunities fund. We can tell them, increase the advertisement rate of it, tell them more what you can do, the collaborations. We have different comparative advantage, technical expertise for, let's say, videography, or we have logistics that we can actually help them with. We can work with ASAC with a list of all the inventory items. More than that, as I said, the crux is in each of us helping each other. Sports club may have some equipment that BZ club may need, but BZ club don't know. So I'll be that marshaller of resources, right? So how do we do this? We can actually start by emailing the chairperson of all these groups, this SCI. And contact list can be gotten from Office of Student Affairs, because they always maintain a list such as this. And probably to enliven the student life of NUS, at least to publicize the student life, we can consolidate the publicity for events for all of these people, all of these groups, and to be disseminated online. The medium is not confirmed yet until I discuss more with the Comms Secretary, but this is the general idea. And lastly, if the VP, myself, if I have more latitude, more capacity to work with, I have some free time on my hands, maybe my DVP, Deputy Vice President, we can actually embark on a flagship event, a council-wide project. The aims will be, firstly, to bond the council, because we are a disparate group of 50 to 60, and we probably don't know each other, so this could be one of the avenues to start forming relations. Also, I would love to aim to showcase the vibrancy of student life. We have so many different activities in NUS that we can actually showcase. So like Chloe said, possible there is a student life video, which the 34th actually talked about already. If you were here last year, if you know NUSSU College, last year they did student life video, EK leaked up. They did this leaked up, was a very big hit, thousands of hits, tens of thousands. The amount of outreach was amazing and actually showcased the vibrancy of the school life. If you just look through the video, right, although the song is catchy, but what catches me is the colorfulness, the color, the vibrancy. Everybody is like so high and all, and that's in school. Wow, if I'm a freshman, I'll be so tempted to join NUSSU College. Now we transpose this to NUSSU. We can highlight Hall, U-Town. These two already have so many things to showcase. Cultural Arts Club, CAC, CSC, Sports Club, anybody at all, even Toastmasters case. Although they may appear in the video just like that, right, talking in a very nice position. But whatever the case, we will find out, we will work out the details next time. But these are all the people, the different stakeholders that we can engage, a student life video. The benefits of such a video is to portray the student life. It's an avenue for the council to bond, not only the council, you see, whoever's involved, the different societies, different groups, the different committees, anybody is involved in the video. It serves as a publicity video for the wider NUS, if not NUSSU at least. And it's a social investment. It's a social investment in showing people, in attracting people into NUS and NUSSU. Hey, we are actually very vibrant. We have a lot of things to offer you guys, more than just academics, more than just a double degree that you're going to study for the rest of your life. Yeah. So, but the cost is it's a very enormous project. Amount of human resources required is amazing. And not to say logistics, but if we do it together, we break it out into parts, I believe it's achievable. And it could be the hallmark of our year for the 35th. KPI. What do I hope to see in 1 year's time? Synergy. I'm all about synergy. I hope that the CNET is to be well established. Everybody can expect every month or every regular interval that we will meet up, and you expect informal sessions along the way as well. I hope to see at least a bonded council. By the end of 1 year, I hope that all 50 of us, despite our differences, despite our different interests, we're able to see each other on the street next time. It's like, hey, you're on the 35th, right? Yeah, something like that. And cohesion, that is one of my important leadership lessons as well. When your team is cohesive, when everyone is bonded strongly together, synergy will automatically happen. You don't need to motivate them too hard. They'll just vote for you because they trust that everyone is here for the right reason. Everyone got each other's back. Cohesion. And lastly, because I want it to be a more consultative union, committees and conclaves, consulting and you have to NUSSU more. I realized that I left out the societies and CCAs because I feel that they are on the fringe now, they're on the outer circle. And it's harder to engage them. So to be more realistic, in 1 year's time, I hope that at least the committees, the 9 of them, and the different conclaves can work more closely with us, the network. 3 years' time, like Clovis, it's an arbitrary number by the way, 3 years is arbitrary. So I hope that it will be consultative union. Students will automatically turn to NUSSU. And there's a stronger attendance at town hall meetings, which are, as you heard from the Q&A just now, town hall meetings can be improved in so and so ways. Quantifiable KPI, we hope that there's increased participation rates in NUSSU events. We don't want to see the same few faces over and over again. We want to see more people, outreach to more outliers, and overall more people at the events. And also, increased participation in the NUSSU committee recruitment drive. This is about talent retention, talent acquisition. I heard this year there were about 200, 300 people who signed up for the collaborative community sign-ups. And I feel that this is quite a heartening number. We could always do with more. With more people, we can do more things. So a summary of my key trusts as VP. The CSRC, the U-Town representation, the flagship event if we have time, outreach to the different societies, CCA, IG through OSA, and CNET. CNET, to me, is the first priority that should happen first. If our own committee don't know each other, what can we say about the rest of NUS? And that is the role of VP, to bring all this together. Thank you. Is there any questions for the floor?
Thank you. Anybody open the Q&A session? Yeah, your half an hour.
Any questions?
What differentiates you from your fellow VP contestant, Sherman?
Sherman is a very smart person. He doesn't follow law. Okay, maybe I missed out something in the last hour. Yeah, but I feel that Sherman's a smart person. He can. I'll just say, okay, Sherman's a smart person, and he's very capable. As in, his comparative advantage last year was to do the Constitution, and firstly, you need law expertise, and we only have a couple of law people every year, 1 or 2 maybe. And what sets me apart from him is perhaps my own personality. I believe personality is a greater strength. Personality in the sense that I'm approachable, I'm easy to form a bond. People can trust me very quickly. I believe that this is through this kind of character that I go around talking to different people, right? For example, when I go around to campaign of sorts, but I didn't see it as a campaign the last few weeks when I met each and every one of you. I saw it as a way to get to know each other. For you to know me, for me to know you. For me to know what your com club is able to do and what we can help you with. That is my ultimate aim. And I posted a Facebook status update recently. Sincerity cannot be fake. I sincerely believe in that. Can you see how sincere I am? Yeah. So these kind of things it comes from within you. Nothing can change it. Yeah. So I believe that my personality will be my greatest selling factor over Sherman.
So I asked a similar question to Sherman. What do you think should NUSSU's position be with your NUS now that they're going to set up a new sort of student government or student council kind of thing? Should we include them as an associate body, a constituent club, or what? What do you envision the kind of relationship NUSSU will have with your NUS?
As I said, I'm a new person to NUSSU, but I have heard of some things of UNUS. Firstly, I read through the council AGM or meetings, I can't remember, where they discussed about the inclusion of UNUS into NUSSU. If I remember correctly, the resolution in the end was to include them in the associate bodies, right? Yeah. So we assume that to be the status quo. Whether or not they are setting up their own, student government, whatever club that represents UNUS alone, it's fine. If they set it up themselves, it's up for them to run their own show. But what's important is for us as student union, from the mission, to represent all the NUS undergraduates. NUS. Okay, maybe you took 50% of them, but other 50% of us, the other half of them still belongs to us. We have to take care of their welfare, take care of their interests as well. I mean, that's a joke, I guess. Yeah, so I feel that we should at least hear their voice. We should have representation of them in the council. Whether or not they set up a student government is up to them. If the entire student body, if their office, their faculty actually give them the legitimacy and the credibility for the student government to function, so be it. As long as we understand the concerns, we can work with it, we can provide for them. I believe NUSSU has done our job.
Hi, it's Tom from PA. So I think you were previously interested in running for financial secretary instead of VP. So can you tell us a bit more about why you decided to switch to become a vice presidential candidate? Yeah, thank you.
It's a valid question. go back 1 month ago when I actually decided to run for NUSSU as correct. My first position I wanted to run for was Student Welfare Secretary. But this is obvious because you can see my past links to welfare. 1 or 2 weeks later, Ita approached me and said, hey, Financial Secretary could be your thing. I thought about it very hard, and I realized, FinSec, hey, actually it sounds good. I don't mind, again, stepping out of my comfort zone of welfare. I don't mind doing it because, firstly, FinSec is something I've never done before. Secondly, FinSec actually gives me more opportunities to see things in a larger perspective. FinSec controls the money. Everything is money. Everything goes through FinSec. I see everything. Right? Now, why the actual question you asked me? Why FinSec? Why not FinSec? Why VP? If you go another extension to what I said, to step out of my comfort zone, to learn new things, VP is the logical alternative to that. I mean, you could ask me why I don't go for P. I'm a first-year student in NUSSU, right? I mean, I'm a first-year NUSSU volunteer. Sorry, I'm a second-year student, by the way. Yeah, so I feel that running for VP, although I'm inexperienced, but at least I believe I'm able to mount that steep learning curve, as I did in welfare 1 year before. Able to do that, and I should learn fast enough to do what my job requires me to do. And I believe that I have the right personality for the job. I believe in a certain vision, and as FinSec, I could achieve half of the vision. As VP, I could achieve more. As you can see from my slides, I believe that union has to stick to what its raison d'etre is. Yeah.
Christabel, CSE. So my question has 2 parts to it. Firstly, what role do you think non-faculty clubs play in the council? And 2, how will non-faculty clubs come into play in your plans?
Let me address the second question first. Because in my plans, you see that I included constituent club, not fact clubs. So whatever I said, everything is applicable to the NFCs as well, not fact clubs. For your first part of the question, can you refresh me what's the first question again?
What role do the non-faculty clubs play in the council?
Alright. The council, if you understand, if you look deeper, council is about the representation of different parts of NUS. Faculty clubs is an obvious reason why they should be inside. Non-fac clubs, that may be a bit blurry at times. Why are these four non-fac clubs only? But why these 4 non-fac clubs are in already is because you realize that these 4 represent a large proportion of the population. Sports club. Sports club actually, of course not everybody in NUS plays sports. Not everyone are athletes, but a large proportion of them are. And it's almost impossible to filter out those who are, right? So, for example, me, I'm a sort of a recreational sports person. Are you going to include me in sports club or include me as a normal NUS student? So I feel that is how we try to include all the non-fac clubs in the council, because they represent a large group of people. And also because, therefore, we need to defend and uphold the interests of students through this club. Yeah. How the non-fac club plays in my plans? Okay, if you look at what I've been saying so far, most of it is about synergy. So in the same sense, I'm going to engage the com club as much as I'm going to engage, I'm going to engage the fac clubs as much as I'm going to engage the non-fac clubs. So on the line, it's the same. Yeah.
So there are also our counterparts from other universities like NTU and SMU. They have their own students' union and students' association. We do the same thing. So how do you foresee our relationship, NUSSU's relationship with them to be?
Are you talking about local universities?
Yeah.
If you look at all the different universities and their unions, all of us, I guess, I'm not sure what their various missions and visions are, but I think it will be safe to assume that they're there, like us, to represent the students. So on the note, we're on the same level. And how we can work with them is that we can actually have conversation feedback sessions, meetings, and we can see that we can learn from them, they can learn from us, the best practices and bad practices to avoid. Yeah, I think we can learn from everybody. Just have to be humble. Does that answer the question? Is there anybody else?
We still got 20 minutes.
Maybe it's first part. You see that most of your plan is quite similar to the other president candidate, but now Ida is the president, and how are you going to change your plan, or how are you going to complement his plan and with your CSU plan?
That's a very valid question. What my vision is, it's not, I would like to say that it's not entirely opposite to what Ita's vision is. Like I said, this is the fundamental, what the union should be about. And I believe that since, let's say if I win, I have to work with Ita. Ita, his vision is so and so, there's so many of them, I can't list them all now. So I would say that it's a good marriage lah. If I were to focus on what I've said, on the internal stuff, growing the union from the ground level, building the foundations. We can work hand in hand. This is a very merry situation. I understand that you might say that, oh, there may be some conflict. I want to go in that direction, you want me to go in that direction. As I said before, the Vice President is here to complement the President. Whether or not my plans are adopted by him, these are my plans. If you don't accept it, I'll accede to you. I mean, I'll try to fight for what I believe, but we will settle it offline. We settle it such that I'll do, in the end, responsibility counts, professionalism counts. Whatever you assign me to do, I'll do it. That's what a good VP is supposed to do. Yeah. But hopefully, he allows me to write well. Yes.
Marin USC. I'm going to ask the same question I asked Sherman. I'm sure you'll be familiar with the constitution.
Okay.
But I understand you're new to NUSSU, so I'll ask the other part of the question.
Thank you.
Is there anything in the constitution that you'd like to change?
From what I know, the council tried to push through these electoral reforms, if I can say that. Is it okay? Alright, so the electoral reforms, do you guys know the details of it? Basically, it's just direct elections of a core team of EXCO, because it's the divorce of executive and legislative powers. So the drivers of the electoral reform is that the executive should be different from legislative, and the executive can function well. The executive can function best if the core team at the top, the leadership team, is able to form their own team, as in to form the entire EXCO. Why I say that? Because look at the current situation now. There are so many different EXCO representatives. I don't know if each of you are good. I only can trust that you are good based on what the faculty trusts in you. And let's face it, not everybody is good to be inside because of certain faculty levels, right? So, to the sense, if I were the president, if I were the VP, I would love to work with people I can trust, people I know. So the electoral reforms actually grant that. See, for me, I want to. On the ideological level, having students actually directly electing the team of leadership, that sits well with me as well. Having students who actually choose their leaders and not through indirect ways. Yeah, so that is one reform that I would like to see through from the 34.
So am I right to say that it can be summarized as changing the elections procedure?
Yes, for now. Until I know more about it, more about the constitution. Yeah. Any other questions?
Oh, I have another question. Marin USC. Could you tell me what would be the objective of the CSLT, the College Student Leadership Committee you're thinking of?
From my conversations with the objectives, right? Firstly is to, from conversations with different people in Utah, people in leadership or not, we feel that there's a need to have a cohesive, a holistic representation of NUSSU, or at least of the people, stakeholders in Utah. So in this case, the 4 colleges, right? The aim, firstly, will be to do that, to achieve representation. And it's through that we can see what issues needs to be raised. Look at the mission of NUSSU again, it's about representation of all undergraduates. Whether or not live in halls or not, that's just a side issue. So that's the first objective. Second objective is also to reach out to the people in Utah. NUSSU has to have a presence in Utah as well. like ITAS plan is a NUS Youth Center. That is one way to have a presence. The other way, apart from physical presence, is to have that mental presence, that intangible presence through this union of sorts. Does that answer the question? Someone also has a similar question.
So I propose the end of Q&A.
I think the union, of course, is a place to learn, and it is an inclusive place to learn, but more than just learning, a VP has to deliver, because a lot of constituent hubs and committees are dependent on VP to deliver. So I got two questions actually. The first question is, what are the efforts that you have put in to actually understand the role of the VP, what the VP does, and how much efforts have you actually put in? Because there are some efforts that I see, for example, your flagship project, the student life video, that was done before, and under any exco structure, that would be under the job of a publications or communication secretary. And the second part of the question is, assuming that, because you are still relatively young in your profession, assuming that you don't get elected as a vice president candidate this year, are you still keen to stay on and to contribute and to learn in other capacities and positions?
Okay, let me address the first question. Steps I've taken to close this gap of knowledge. As I said earlier, instead of campaigning, I've actually been going around talking to different people, understanding different parts of the union. More than just that, I've read through all the different AGM minutes, council minutes, exco minutes is not present, yeah. So council minutes and AGMs. And I've talked to, I guess, quite a bit of people, quite a number of people, but obviously it's never enough. I need to learn through, perhaps, by the working dynamics as we go along. I can see through, like for example, today's elections, the procedures, I wasn't familiar with that apart from the fact that I was in BZ Club, but there's still some things here and there. Yes, to close that, we need to put in more effort through gathering knowledge from publications, archivals. The secretaries actually keep a compilation of the archivals. I will always definitely look in that. To me, I would rather go through all these facts that I already laid out for you from the previous people, from the previous excos, than to go around asking people and relearning what is actually taught here. In a way, what I mean is that I don't want to trouble, let's say, Ren Kai, but actually I can find this information so easily and he has to put in effort to try and coach me. So that's why I say I've read through the minutes and AGM first before I even started to go around talking to people. Yeah, that's how I close the gap. And I have put in a lot of this effort. I hope you can see from what I say. The second question is, sorry, can you repeat the second question?
Because I think my second question is that you're relatively young and
yes, okay.
So
thanks.
are you willing to learn in other capacities?
Of course, that has been part of my decision game tree analytics. What I'm going to do, game theory, basically. If you know me, I'm actually a logical person. I think through all the different alternatives. Yes, this features heavily in it. If I don't win, what would I do? Since you must understand the reason for me coming to serve in the EXCO. Firstly, is to give back to the students in a larger capacity. But of course, if I can't get a larger capacity, I'll still do it through some other ways. Through DVP, because we had some talk just now. If I lose, maybe will call me into DVP, Deputy Vice President. Or if not, I could actually go through other different EXCO roles. But rest assured, I'll be here. I'll be here to execute my duties faithfully, and also be here to learn on the job.